Good evening, everyone. I've got 7 o'clock. Happy New Year. Welcome to the Town of Pendleton's January Planning Commission meetings. If I could please have a roll call starting to my left.
Cheryl Remy Hunt.
Brad Valentine.
Kyle Icorn.
Tim Pritchard.
Carol Hannah.
Jenny Sisson.
Andrew Holloway.
Thank you. We do have a full quorum. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome Andrew to the board.
Thank you.
We'll appreciate all your comments and feel free to input anything you want anytime.
Excellent.
It's open. Okay. Andrew has been sworn in prior to the meeting. So we'll go ahead and move to the minutes. If I could have a motion or accept the minutes as submitted. If there's any additions or corrections.
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Thank you. Minutes approved. No old business. Carrying on to new business. We have elect officers. I'm sorry, I didn't have another. Okay. We need to elect officers for this year.
3 officers. First, you have president, you have vice president, and secretary. President, vice president must come from the membership. The secretary does not. It can come from outside the membership. It can be from town employees.
Okay.
Are there any nominations for president?
Nominate Tim, president.
Tim Richards, nominated for president.
Second that nomination.
Are there any other nominations for president? All those in favor of Tim Pritchard serving as president 2023, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Is
I
it?
get a raise.
100%.
What a raise.
No,
Huh?
no.
Can I double it? 0 times
Oh, yeah, okay.
2, 0.
Mayor signs the check, says that.
Any nominations for vice president of the planning?
I will nominate Kyle.
I'll second that.
Nomination Kyle Icorn. Are there any other nominations? Not. All those in favor of Kyle Icorn being vice president of the planning commission, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Any nominations for secretary of the planning commission?
I'll nominate Carol to retain her position as secretary.
I'll second that.
The nomination of Carol Hannah for secretary. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Carol Hannah serving as secretary of the planning commission, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. All right, moving forward with new business. Rezone from institutional to general business. Tim Lemon being via Rochelle Martin.
All right, so this is a rezone at 3189 West Angle Road, zoned institutional. It used to be a small church. As far as I'm aware, that hasn't really been utilized in quite some time. Current use is none. Also, as far as I'm aware, it's approximately 1.29 acres. So the applicant is requesting to switch from institutional to general business to put a small business in the building. The church use, again, no longer utilized, and if the building is ever demolished and they want to develop the site, it'll go through site plan review, same as anything else. Really not too much on this one. I can go ahead and give you our staff analysis. Function of the planning staff is to analyze the petition against our UDO and other approved plans to present facts. Based on those, the staff has following comments. Church institutional use hasn't been utilized in recent years, but the parcel is also surrounded by general business uses. There's a My Time Fitness and a pizza parlor. So general business doesn't, it fits in the area. And it also fits our UDO for size requirements as well as necessary ingress egress, which already exists as far as access goes. So if there's any questions or comments for Rochelle or myself.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
Can we ask what kind of business you're planning?
That's a great question. It's not gonna be a hair salon. It's not gonna be a hair salon. We're still in the works of that right now. So we're waiting. Everything was kind of contingent on this meeting. So,
And obviously it'll have to fit within our permitted uses. Unless she wants to come back for conditional use.
You plan to build on immediately, Rochelle, or
do what?
you plan to build on immediately or?
Build
just
on to it? No.
Use it as is.
As far as traffic patterns, because the school is right there, would the potential business, is it high volume with traffic or would it affect the
I don't know.
times when, because that's backed
To-
out to that road there?
I guess I should explain a little bit
Okay,
on why we even bought this church. And well, first off, I've always loved that little church. I've always thought it was absolutely amazing. And then we had a serendipity moment where we actually knocked on their door and they were actually in there the day before they were going to put the building up for sale. So we actually bought it the night before. And our thought process is we would like it to be something that I've always loved that property and we want it to be something that would benefit the school. Right now, I feel like it's such an awesome piece of property and it's right there by the school. Like it'd be very ideal. I have kids in school right now and it just kills me that they are constantly running across the street to Wendy's. And so what I'd like to see is a business that goes in there where the kids can take the back way across instead of that way, across that busy road, because I'm telling you, like, that's a whole, probably another meeting, but that needs to somehow be addressed, in my opinion, at some point before someone actually gets really hurt. But yeah, my idea is to have something that would benefit all the kids there at the school system.
Is there adequate parking right now? I mean, I can't remember what the parking situation looks like.
It's kind of funny. It's kind of, there's not really anything labeled. It's just kind of like I mean, it was a church, so I think the church probably fit quite a few people in there. It's actually bigger in there than what it looks like from the outside. But parking's kind of a little sloppy, I really feel like. I mean, you can definitely park there, but it's not like you're gonna get 50 cars in there, I don't think.
Is the parking lot connected to the pizza place? Or do you have to go
No.
out?
There's a
Okay.
little lot that's in between there.
Okay.
And this won't go through site plan review unless there's exterior improvements, right?
Unless the building, unless there's an addition or the building
Site.
is raised and rebuilt.
Okay.
It'll just have to fit the permitted uses within general business.
Questions? Any questions or comments from the audience? Yes. Okay. I'll entertain motions for acceptance of the 2023-01.
I'll make a motion to accept 2020-001.
2023-01.
2023-0.
It's a favorable recommendation, right?
Yes.
Yes, favorable.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. All those in favor of 2023-01, rezone institutional from general business, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That was
Rochelle.
the easiest meeting I've had all year.
Yeah.
Right, it is what it is, right.
Right.
Thank you. I gotta get back to my daughter's high school. game.
You might need you.
Okay, might need me?
Yeah.
Okay. Good luck to you guys.
Okay, item number 2, 2023-02, 5517 West State Road 38. Rezone from agricultural large lot to light industrial. Gaines Development LLC via LKQ Midwest Inc.
All right, so I'll kind of set up some background on the site and what they're asking for, and then LKQ has prepared their own presentation, and then after which I'll give my staff analysis. So this is 2 parcels on the west side of 69. Like Tim said, they're both currently zoned Ag 1, which is our large lot agriculture. They're used for seasonal farming, approximately 113 acres combined, and they are part of our I-69 quadrant master plan, mostly residential, but a little bit part of our Keystone district area. Thank you. So as far as the use, LKQ is a global distributor of vehicle products. They're not a public access facility. What they've proposed is a warehouse along State Road 38. And the building is approximately 229,400 square with a 70-acre stone yard to the south. The on-site detention along the west will retain natural tree buffer yards, as well as preserving existing natural spaces elsewhere on site where feasible. The buffer yards, berms, and a solid metal fence will be utilized around the entire property according to the site plan. And according to their traffic analysis, which they will get into, this is going to be a low daily traffic business. So you want to go ahead and take it away?
Got a short video.
Technology.
That you probably.
Good thing Bruce came out today too, to make sure this works.
It did work.
Your time's up.
Eric, just play on the speaker.
Sorry, guys.
cognizant of everybody's time. You guys don't get back enough. So we'll try to get to the points. First of all, good evening. Thank you for allowing us to introduce our potential project and go ahead and just make a few quick introductions of the team that'd be responsible for the project. If we're fortunate enough to be approved. Randy Smith, LKQ Corporation. Randy's responsibly with LKQ Corporation, directly responsible for this project. So he and I have worked together on 12 of these projects across the country. We can both kind of speak each other's language, so we have a true understanding of what you guys want to see at the end of the day, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Eric Safco, Cody Barnes, they're with Arco Design Build. They have an office actually in Indianapolis. They've constructed the last 4 projects that we've done. So again, part of the team, we all kind of speak the same language. Dylan Reynolds, our civil engineer. Dylan Yufko, also in Indianapolis, but more importantly, only lives about 10 minutes away from here. So we think that's good for us. Keep an eye on things if we're starting to do something. And then last but not least, Chris Farrar, my business partner. Chris and I are developers that, again, have been fortunate enough to work with LKQ across the country. We're somewhat used to coming in municipalities, making this presentation and answering all the questions to make you feel comfortable that we're going to produce what we say we're going to do. So again, thanks. First of all, if we didn't feel that this site that we're looking at in the community wasn't the ideal location for this project, or that you folks as the planning commission didn't have the approval to say this project was what you want, we again do this across the country. As soon as a couple of us saw that site, we were like, that's it. Obviously, after some discussions and initial meetings, we understand that there's a what I'll call a quasi land plan that discusses that site and references it to possibly be something more along the lines of a high-end residential project. We're going to get into the specifics a little bit later in the presentation, but we all feel that land plan is flawed to some degree. That the highest and best use is not residential for that site, but we can go into specifics here in a little bit. We've got a quick slide presentation. We'll start in just a second, but before we get to that, we also wanted to make sure that everybody, we understand that there was another project that was here maybe 6, 8, 9 months ago, and we think it's important for everybody to understand the difference between our project and maybe what was presented before, and not only makes this project different, but desirable from a municipality standpoint. First and foremost, this is not a spec building project. We know exactly what we're going to build. More importantly, you're going to know exactly what we're going to build. So there's no, who's it going to be, what's it going to look like. You're going to know all that at the beginning. LKQ is a Fortune 300 company, and I've seen it in my 12 years of working with them. Once they become an occupant in a city, they become part of the fabric. They have scholarships set up locally. They entertain the fire department to do exhibits. They truly do become a member of your community. They're going to create some new jobs. They're well-paying jobs. This is the building. You guys have some standards architecturally. We will meet all those standards. This facility will be very attractive. It's fully screened. Landscaped is probably, I'd say, some of the most extensive landscape requirements we've seen, which is great. We know we'll adhere to that. There's no smells, excessive noises. LKQ is considered a true green company. Nothing they do is a negative environmental impact. Everybody understands that. We can talk about references as to what we've done in California, and obviously that's a pretty difficult place to develop in, and we not only met their standards, but we exceeded those standards there. So, and then last couple of things, this is an extremely large, valuable project to an entity like Pendleton. it's, I would say it's a fairly significant number that's going to be on your tax rolls, right? And hopefully a benefit to you. And then finally, wanted to point out, as of right now, we're not asking for any tax pay. So make sure everybody knows that. We've got, again, a slide presentation. It's got probably 35-ish or so slides. We don't need to go through and spend a whole lot of time on them. We've actually 10 hard copies that we'll leave with you all to go through further later. The first half it'll talk about LKQ and who they really are as a company. The second half will get into a little bit specifics for what we would do here, maybe some visual aspects of the building and so forth. So we might kind of go through the first part. Unless you guys see something you want to talk about, we can certainly do that. But we'll get to some questions also. Ready? Again. So.
Yep. Okay. So again, just a mission statement. We're not going to read all this, but if you guys, like I say, you see something you want to talk about it, certainly stop us. But this is the evolution process. I guess we can touch on this quickly. LKQ, when they founded the company, the visionaries, when I met them 12 years ago, the process hadn't started yet to do what we're doing here, right? Which we've done in 12 other cities like Pendleton across the country. Their vision was to do exactly this: build a mass of operation within certain markets, and then instead of having 4 or 5 lesser facilities, they build one, what they call prototype, very attractive facility, and it has changed their industry. So this is the different units of operation. This is their footprint in the country. We put this in here just to let you know, again, part of the green aspect. You think about what they do, 800,000 vehicles a year. Those are vehicles that would go basically to everybody's got to get rid of the junk of what I'm trying to say. Scrapyard, but just a dump. They'd be in a dump versus being dismantled. ESG, again, environmental. This is kind of just a summary there, more too. Important for you guys probably to know back up, if you don't mind, Chris, just kind of let them back if you can. Yeah, this is at all the facilities that LKQ operates in. They again have certain standards that they put upon themselves, not only what would be in the municipality or federally or state regulated. This is, we mentioned there, you saw in the video, this is the recycling that they do. The vehicles come in, they literally take out the fuel and put fuel in their vehicles. They take out the oil, and if they can use the oil, they use the oil. And if not, again, it's all above ground and there are no environmental impacts. Tires are removed immediately and removed from the facility as well. So there's a little bit on just kind of their corporate identity when they're in town, as we talked about, scholarships and local training, that kind of thing. This is their footprint in Indiana currently. Again, talks about what we anticipate creating job-wise here, average wages, so on and so forth. We thought this was important to, for those that you may not know development per se, but 113 acres is obviously a large site. And if you were trying to maximize coverage, which a developer would do, you're talking about building significantly different amount of square footage than what 229,000 feet would be at the end of the day. So we specifically wanted to talk about the amount of truck traffic that this facility would create on 113 acres and compare it to not only the residential homes, which again, that's part of the quasi land plan that's in place, but as you'll see on the next slide, that site could potentially be almost over a million, almost near 1.5 million square feet of industrial properties, and the amount of truck traffic it would create compared to what we would have, which is minimal. The truck traffic for LKQ right there to kind of give you an idea of the operation. They have what I'll call UPS vans. Those are the 25 box trucks that will be stationed out of this facility. And then on average, 3 to 5, we want to put in 5 tractor trailers per day coming into the facility. That's it. This is the traffic pattern. There's absolutely no reason why any of these trucks, other than maybe the UPS type truck, if there were a dealership out to the east through town, that any of this truck traffic goes through town. That's the beauty of this site, we feel. It literally segregates itself to where you do not have to go anywhere near that side of town, of your town. Important to note, this is not a public access walk-up facility. You can't go up there and say, I want to walk and pick park or whatever. That's not what this is. And we feel that's critically important that everybody understands that. We have a 8-foot solid fence. And in this case, for this facility, it would actually be on a berm. We'll talk about specifics if you guys want in a little bit to screen this property. We've got some visuals coming up that show you what it would look like from the freeway. Obviously, you, as I mentioned earlier, the extensive landscaping and no smell or noise. This is a facility we just finished outside of Denver. This facility would look very similar to that. That pretty much is it. This is a facility we did outside of Salt Lake City. Again, all of these markets are in communities similar to Pendleton, where we've gone. That's and halfway between really Phoenix and Tucson, Casa Grande. That was the mayor that was at the end of that presentation. That's the facility that's there. Typical look of screening, the 8-foot fence. Nothing is stored higher than 4 feet outside. So again, we're very sensitive to the screening aspect and the visual aspect. LKQ is a publicly traded company. They, believe it or not, they have to present themselves a certain way to create value and keep that value. So they're very cognizant of that. Typical warehouse of these facilities, as you can see, they keep them pretty clean. Randy Smith runs a tight ship. I've seen it. Keeps them in line. This is the size of the building, size of the site, our estimated project costs, visual of the site itself. Where we position the building, the detention there. Yeah, these are just kind of schematic plans, and we will, like I said, leave that. This is the renderings of certain elevations of the building. That's the front. That's the true front. That's yeah. That's the screening from the freeway. Carried around from south to north. Again, LKQ, we hold ourselves to a pretty high standard. We obviously understand that you guys want to make sure that you do the right thing for your community, and we're here, like I say, hopefully be a part of that. We think it's a good fit. Although there's only one person that really did the majority of the speaking tonight. Just wanted to leave you guys and let you know that this is literally this group right here are the folks that are responsible for this project. If it happened, there's not a single person that we would pass the buck to. It stops right here. So we take great pride in, like Mayor said on the video there. The highest compliment we can get is to have one of you folks, when we're drinking coffee, to come up and say, you know what, you guys did exactly what you said you're going to do. That's really what we pride ourselves in. So this is a great site. It's a great community. We would love to be a part of it. We think you have a land plan that is not 100% accurate. for its use. We know the Kimley Horn folks. They're actually very competent civil engineers. We've actually worked with them on 3 projects across the country, but and not to be critical, but I wouldn't have hired them for a land plan or an urban planning or anything, but the highest and best use for that site is not going to be highly residential. And if you know, the easy thing to do is say, well, that's what we want and hope it happens. But I'm not smart enough to do a lot of things, but finding highest and best uses for site, I've kind of got a little bit of a knack for that. Mobile home park, apartments, maybe residentially, if that's what you want. But that's an industrial, light industrial site, and to get one building with a light utility user, again, you guys are set up well for if the decision was to let this project go forward. I think you'd be satisfied. Thank you. Questions, if anybody has any.
I just want to make sure, could you go back to your slides where you showed your inside the warehouse, I believe in your bay? I think it's your disassembly operation.
Yeah.
Just go over them if you will. I know we've met, and I understand it, but I want to make sure everybody on the board or in the audience, a couple more, understand exactly what you really do as far as.
The dismantling photo.
end.
Yeah, I know where you're at. 1 second.
Keep going. There.
Right.
So tell them how you get the car in, you take the motor, transmissions, the fenders off, catalog them, resell them. Sorry.
You talk about the operation inside, sure. Randy, you want to talk about specifically, or you want me to? Okay. You chime in anytime. So yeah, so frequency of flatbeds coming in. Two. So a trailer will come in, flatbed trailer with 5, 6 damaged vehicles, right? So somebody's neighbors has an accident in their car is deemed totaled by their insurance company, right? Well, there obviously is a lot of parts available on that car that are still salvageable and usable. And so again, part of the visionary from 22 years ago, LKQ decided, you know what, rather than letting those cars go somewhere and just sit there and people come out and do what they do to get a part, let's build a facility where we bring those in. We bought this totaled vehicle and figure out a system to where we can disassemble the vehicle, just call it within 24, 48 hours, taking every salvageable part off of that vehicle on a handheld computer. You've categorized it and you've taken it around that wall to the left of that slide and put the part in the warehouse. And then you set up a operation that can distribute those parts throughout the country. And that's what they do. So this building would be one of probably 10 more facilities that will go across the country in the next, I said 3 years because I'm ready to retire. Randy told me it might be 5 or 6 years, but and they serve markets in what we call a super region. So that this would be a regional facility.
So once the engine, fenders, and et cetera is removed, catalog,
right,
then you turn and deliver them to automotive dealers, repair shops,
exactly,
shops, et cetera.
Exactly.
They call in and say, I need a fender for a Chevy.
Exactly. And usually, again, that's the box truck UPS deliveries, right? But let's say somebody in Cincinnati says, I need whatever. They look in the system and they see, well, Pendleton just got whatever it is.
They can look in your system as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so that's part of the 5 tractor trailers that'll go out every day that'll do spoke, and we call it hub and spoke, kind of an operation where they'll go out for deliveries to other regions. And they're doing the same thing, right?
Okay, then now we've got the car outside. It was in your other slide there in the stone lot. Explain to the board what happens to that car then.
Let me talk about that, Tim. Realistically, the world's changing in the cars we have. And as we inventory these cars very deeply, there's an immense amount of computers. Every car has up to 15 computers now. There's a lot of small parts that we can't necessarily pull and categorize. So we leave them on the cars to enable us to get the rest of the dollars out of them. And those simple things are pulled. Or we might have more, let's say we have 10 headlights and there's another 10 out there in the yard, but we sold them too quick. We go back and we'll pull those 10. But the yard is just our overflow to be able to keep the levels of what we're trying to get out the door quickly.
Okay. So, and then when that car is totally utilized, then you scrap the remains. Does that happen once a month, twice a year?
Usually happens probably on a quarterly basis. One thing that the group needs to understand is our cars are mostly late model. Well, our cars are coming from insurance auto auctions. And so the value of those cars are much higher. And so the life of them can be longer. Now, Midwest is different than California or Arizona. The life might be shorter, but it's part of what we do.
Yeah. Again, you guys are familiar with the operation. You need to understand it, right? So good question. Right. And so here, exactly. And so here's the way that we present it and you start to understand, and you will understand it if it happened, right? As you can imagine, the inside of that building is very well detailed, laid out, right? You literally the racks are certain angles and depths and all that, right? That yard is down to the half inch of where the rows are, what's stored on them and whatnot, right? So as you can imagine, you have to have an area to take the dismantled vehicle and put it. You can't put a building that's 113 acres under one roof, right? Again, the screening is important. You guys need to know that, but you will not see that yard unless you are above it. Above if you're somewhere above it at 20 feet, if there's a high rise around there, you can maybe see over the fence, but there's going to be landscaping around the perimeter on top of a berm. So this would be, as well screened facility as we've ever done, which is great, is what you want. But that's what you do. And then with regards to specifics on what they'll do on once a quarter, we say 3 or 4 times a year. We'll designate an area. What we've done in most municipalities, we designate an area to do, it's reached its cycle. The final thing you got to do is you got to get rid of that metal now, right? And quite honestly, you look at metal prices and you say, okay, let's take 15% of that yard, let's pick, and say we're going to call in the crusher and we're going to sell the metal. Wow, how loud is that crusher, right? We'll show you that the crushers that are used, the decibel level of those crushers are less than a 18-wheeler in front of the 18-wheeler that comes to the facility is louder than the crusher. So, and that's, we'll give you the specs on those. We have the specs on those. And we designate an area, as I was going to say, more in the middle of the site, just again, nobody even see it. Nobody would hear it. Nobody would see it.
All right. If you could go to your slide where you have the employment data. So you have Pelton listed at 80+ jobs, which is almost double and triple the other facilities. Is this one double and triple the size? Or do you anticipate that much business here or both?
Well, there's a couple of things happening. Yes, it is larger, and that's why we are doing what we're doing. And we will be closing, confidentially, we will be closing some of these other facilities due to this. So that's why.
Okay.
And if anybody knows any LKQ employees in any of those other cities, they're safe. They're good if they want to come. Don't let them know that they're subject.
Okay. And then back to your fence. If you could pull the screening up on the fence, you have one closer detail.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There you go. That's an all metal fence, aluminum, I assume, painted.
It is. Yep.
In this case, it'd obviously be on a berm.
Right. How high is it? Do you have a drawing there from civils from the height of the berm or?
The requirements min is 3 feet. We'll obviously balance some topsoil. We'll probably be somewhere between 3 to 5 feet when it all's said and done with that fence on top of it.
And the fence is
8 feet.
8 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll run line of sights as part of the design layout and make sure that those line of sights are working so that we get it kicked up far enough to where you'll never see anything behind it.
Yeah. That drawing would be crucial to see. We can see that. You can somehow fabricate that drawing
Rendering
from it.
pretty close.
Yeah, you have on the interstate, from the interstate, look very nice.
Yep.
If you could get that line of sight from the interstate to the top of your fence on that angle would be.
Yeah, I think
One
the
had
one
trees all around from the outside the fence on the interstate.
Existing trees.
There you go, that one.
Yeah, and in that packet on the site plan, we've identified kind of the clusters along there of what the existing trees are and what we're looking to preserve.
That's a
in
good point.
addition to the new trees that we would be adding.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, that's relatively flat through there. The interstate in relation to your property.
It actually goes perfectly. It actually goes away a little bit.
What I was worried about originally was the interstate's up here and you're lower, you can see
Yeah.
down in there.
And another thing worth mentioning, I think too, is you already said this, stop me, where the detention pond is, the yard is going to be naturally sloped. Everything's going to be running away. So your highest point will be closer to the fence. So as it runs away, your line of sight will drop. So.
I have a few questions.
Yeah, that's the questions I had, although, Jen.
Yeah, I'm not ready to get into the minutia. I want to back it back up to some high level thought process. You started off and mentioned our plan as quasi. I get it. It has fluidity to it. But it's a little more in quasi to the residents that put their time into that. It wasn't just the town that decided this. That had a
Sure.
lot of input.
Sure.
But again, there is some fluidity. My thought is, why is this the ideal location? You've mentioned it multiple times, but
Sure.
I've not seen any facility that is contiguous to residential. No pictures. I've seen just open spaces. And that was something the town, its members, everyone involved in our plan talked about. We want things to make sense. No haphazard planning. Things need to flow. And I've not heard any of how this is going to do that with everything that's currently in its place. You've got a campground that's been putting a lot of time into that. You've got high incomes on the other side. So that's where I'm at, not necessarily what it brings to the community via fiscal impact. So if you have pictures, if you can talk to that, I appreciate that, because that's where I'm at, on
Okay.
high level
So
right now. I'm not into.
Okay, first of all, and no one's being critical of the plan, right? But it's a plan, and a plan is, you know, it can evolve, okay? And I'll answer, I think you had one question. I think the question was, how does it flow with what's around it? And I'll get to that. But with regards to the plan, again, I've seen in my 33 years of doing this, I've seen a lot of land plans, right? Some are great, most are not even as good as the ones you have, right? But they evolve. It's like a business plan. If you have a business, you have a business plan. But sometimes that business plan isn't working for whatever reason. Things change, they just do. You can continue to say, I'm going to live by this business plan, but your business will fail. So you got to understand that with regards to land plans. Again, nobody's being critical. Lots of time and effort went into it. You probably spent a lot of money, and it's a good base plan. How does it flow? Why did we say this is the ideal site? First and foremost, it's relatively flat. Secondly, what's around it? A campground and a farm equipment dealer who, what they do outside is obviously okay with everybody, but it's not, what we do is less intrusive, right, than that. It's an ideal fit for the freeway. Trucks don't compete with the residents of your town. They just get off and they come right to the site. It checks a lot of the boxes. It's an excellent site.
But how do you see the rest of that land around blending
With the rest of the land, there's no land to the east, so the rest of the land being to the west. We're the whole 113 acres we're taking, that's what we would take.
all the way up to that county road? Because I don't see.
Yeah, what's outlined in red?
No, like.
I think she's interested in
600.
the parcel to the left where the cursor is now.
Right, yeah, sorry, this cursor's going a little crazy, but yeah.
There.
Well, that would be up to you guys, obviously. There's, residential properties touching a freeway. Again, excluding mobile home parks and maybe apartments. There's just not many people doing that.
I feel like we're missing the whole point of this Keystone Development District, which I understand is just a plan and a vision, but this town has one chance to get this area right. And I mean, I've read through the I-69 plan several times, and in the southwest quadrant, which is what we're sitting in, it says that the frontage along State Road 38 supports the Keystone Development District and is an integral part of that whole development district that we've decided we're not even going to touch until we've got 20,000 population. Or, I mean, that was put into that plan as well. And I know we were all on the planning commission when we talked for a long time about that, on how we're going to, what do we do with this Keystone development? It's not identified, it's a future vision, and we all agree that it needs to be a future plan, and we need to concentrate on the areas that have better defined development, including the downtown area, and it's in the master plan for the I-69, and I know that's just a plan, but I feel like with the effort, I mean, that was just less than 2 years ago that we put that plan together, and maybe it's not high-end residential, but I think the whole point is that it is an undefined area right now.
And we have the road there that it's not.
And this is right in the middle
Yeah.
of it. So I feel like it's going to limit anything that happens in the future in both of those quadrants.
Because we have residential developed on the other side. It's developing. Some of it's in our territory, some not. But as the population grows way down the road, you have to also look at future traffic flows. And we've got some county road that could eventually, if things land well, go over that and be right into. So that's where you're looking. We're not looking at one quadrant. We're also looking at the other side and how it flows for future flow if there's an overpass, right? So your flow of traffic from the east to the west, because we're one town. And again, visually, when you pull up to this corridor, you have that walkway. It's being developed, but we have the bridge, we have the footbridge. So then that footbridge goes over, right now, then you can get to the Mystic Falls, but then it goes right into light industrial. And that too was part of the overall vision. Yeah, right there. So we have various future walking trails, bike trails, and how does this fit within some of those things that countless hours have been put in? And again, plans flow, but I'm just not hearing how. Yeah, I'm hearing how this is ideal maybe for your company, and I'm not saying anything about the business per se, very professional presentation, but just how does that work for us and our residents, which is ultimately who we have to think about. Again, that's why I was keeping questions very high level, because I have to understand this vision and how it works with our community before I get into the minutia.
Yeah, well, again, I don't know specific question to answer there, other than I understand countless hours and time spent on a plan that may or may not be correct now for whatever reason, but you also have to, again, I grew up in a small town, so I understand, and my family was involved in city and county politics my whole life, and it's a fine line between protecting your community and keeping it like it is, right? Versus understanding that growth probably needs to happen to some degree. We need to create some jobs, keep some generation here that may move to a big city, that would stay here, that knows it. How does this specifically fit in? Again, 113 acres with the amount of utility impact. Now I'm talking about your entity, your city, your municipality. The impact that they have on your utility draw is minimal. If you put 20 houses out there, you know, be more than that, obviously. You've got significantly more utility draw, right? But if that's what you want, you've got a plan, and you, again, not plans are plans. But you want to hang your hat and say, we want residential right there. That's what we've said. That's what it needs to be. We all understand that. We came up to make this presentation. If that's the case, there is nothing we can do. This, again, is for you guys. If I'm in your seat, one Fortune 300 company to utilize the entire site and have it look like it's going to look and be as attractive as it's going to be and create the jobs it's going to create, I would say you're going to have a hard time getting criticized 4 years down the road. That's my opinion.
Can I ask some minutia questions?
Sure. Let me get somebody else.
Let's go ahead and make note of the residential point there on the plans. We'll discuss that again. It's duly noted. Brad?
The 70 acre gravel lot, how many vehicles do you anticipate that will support with the maximum density, since you manage it down to a ½ inch?
Yeah. Again, when you say vehicles, you mean frames and the subsequent parts that are left on that? What's that per acre? Yeah.
We're gonna probably have about 8,000.
About 8,000 vehicle carcasses, for lack of better words.
When it's full.
Okay. Where is the fluid recovery done? Gasoline, oil, antifreeze, is it done in the structure? Is it done on grounds?
We're going to take it next door to the equipment dealer, do it in his yard with the stuff he's doing. No.
It's all done at site. It's the first thing we do when the car's brought in. Everything is drained completely.
Right here.
So the storage tanks are
So there's
literally inside the building, not outside?
Correct.
And how many gallons of the different fluid types are you storing on site?
How big are those tanks?
The fuel is limited because we reuse it immediately. There's about 800 gallons max of oil and 500 gallons because of the ratio of antifreeze, which are pumped out weekly or bi-weekly.
all above ground.
Yeah, everything's
Above
above
ground.
And pumped out, that is transported out via EPA approved trucks.
Correct.
To
They-
recycle
Thermal
facilities.
fluid, an approved EPA person, but it's actually valuable. We get paid for it.
Mhm.
You burn the gasoline in your trucks.
Yes, correct.
Okay. With regards to the actual operation, are these just used parts, or do you also have a remanufacturing element on the site?
Not at this site. It's not remanufactured at this
So it is just salvaging used parts, moving them to inventory, and then distributing them. Okay. You mentioned that there's the potential that some of the smaller facilities might be closed. And that the employees would be protected in the event that they want to potentially move this facility. How many actual new jobs are created versus just relocating existing personnel to this facility?
I would say the majority of the time when we make this long of a move, that at this place, I would say 50 new employees. The nice thing is our higher end employees usually move into the location area, which we like.
And when you say higher end, I know that there are two to three salaried managers.
Yeah, these are the plant managers, and supervisors that have long-term, they're well paid. They like what they do, so they usually follow, and we support by helping them move and so forth. So on.
Okay. The tires are stripped in the initial salvage phase.
Yep.
And where are those stored?
Those are actually stored inside also, but we are required, LKQ's requirements. We can't store more than 75 tires at any given time, and they're removed off to the facility.
Is it once a week or once every 2 weeks?
Once a week. Yeah.
Once a week, they're removed from the warehouse.
How many cars are you processing per week in a facility this size?
I'd have to do the math real quick, like on this size of facility, probably 75.
That's how.
That's on the high
That's on the high side, just so, yes, just for you guys.
When you close a facility, what happens to the structure?
I mean, Randy can answer it as well. When you close a facility, what happens to it? Basically, someone like me would buy it, another developer, tear it down and offer it for sale or build another building.
How long would you think this, if you were to build here, that it would take before it would become obsolete?
This building?
Because I'm just wondering why you're closing other facilities.
I guess the question is why you closed.
Sure. Well, they're obviously much smaller, and they're in what we call in our industry infill. A lot of them become infill, right? Things have come in around it that don't make the highest and best use, like we're talking about, to be what it is with the smaller facility. It might be traffic congestion, operating reasons why, but usually it's because the facility that's being removed is a very older facility that was bought 20-something years ago when the company was formed. So, yeah.
They also don't meet all of our new EPA requirements on our facilities. And that's one of the reasons we're upgrading all these facilities. Like he's saying, we bought them initially from mom and pop sort of situations. And at this point, we're 5-6 years behind trying to aggressively restructure our business.
That's over time too, that profit appreciation, probably sell, make a profit.
Exactly.
Going to the next one. That was the real estate.
I don't have a question. I do have a comment about, I think our decision here is because this is, like you mentioned, this has come up more than once, this light industry question there, is that what we want in a town? I mean, visual to it. But my first concern was that it's a solid wall. I was thinking, not knowing what your business was, so why is that? And then I was really impressed with the reuse, the background of how you started your company and all that. But I just wonder, I really think that our work is to decide here as a planning commission. I understand that we tabled the residential comment. I don't have to go there at all, but to the point of a plan is a plan until you need to modify it or upgrade it. I'm not sure what it would be, but I really think we need to think long and hard about it. Is this what we want. It feels to me like this type of business should be further out than right into the entry of our town. That's really my bias about it, nothing to do with how you do your work and the planning behind it. That's my overall concern is that's a landlocked, that's gonna be a very visual cue to our community, and I'm not sure that's what we've been asked to do from a comprehensive plan perspective. I don't disagree with all the comments about the residential work and all that, but that's where I rest with this light industrial question when they bring it to us to switch from house zone now.
I'll entertain some comments from the audience. Any neighbors or adjoining business people would like to speak or make a comment?
I have a question.
Sir, come up to the podium, please. Please state your name and your address if you could, please.
Sure. My name is Gregory Kimball and 6989 South 600 West. So relatively close to where this would go. My question would be, if this was approved and implemented, what is the likelihood or desire for a sister or remanufacturing facility to locate close by?
Probably very minimal. Yeah, most of our facilities are spaced 100 miles apart, just for our infrastructure to work. But very likely.
What's your thought process? What are you thinking? Like next door to the 113 acres? that
Not
this project-
necessarily right next door, but at least within the town limits of Pendleton.
Well, I think it would be, like Randy said, I don't think that that's very likely, but if it did happen, I obviously not unlike what we're doing tonight, right? We'd have to come before this group and you all and say, here's what we want to do here. And we get it approved or not, right? 12 projects, we've never had it. We've never had anybody, a sister company or even any of their vendors come near us, you know, want to be near us necessarily.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Somebody there in the back. Ma'am?
I just. My name is Jane Green and I live off of 600 in Boston, the Foster Ridge neighborhood. And my question is, I know that during the presentation, they spoke of it being a green facility. Is there a reassurance that there'll be no burning, you know, in the end stages of your dismantling of these vehicles, any kind of environmental
We
discharge
guarantee.
in the water or the air?
Yeah, we you know, a lot of times, these projects will include what's called a conditional use, right? And so in there, citizens like you that might have a question, noise, for instance, or burning, you simply put as part of our permitting process, we're not allowed to do that. And so it's literally out there, public record for everybody to understand. And so to answer your question, there is no burning. Environmentally, without oversimplifying it, it's a publicly traded Fortune 300 company, right? If they had an environmental disaster, if you will, the value of that company it goes away, basically. So first and foremost, almost every decision they make is to, again, what are we doing in the community and environmental, how do we operate?
And then a second question, I couldn't quite see the maps as the slideshow was going by, but back to the map that outlines where 600 is in relation to the project. Well,
Is this the one you're on?
yeah,
Okay.
the actual 600.
That's the road to the left there.
This one right here?
Jane Green.
Yeah.
That's 600 over the cursor is.
Okay, I didn't know if there were any
That's
plans.
Foster's. Well, take your cursor back down.
Yeah.
Down, not go too far. Just left of that woods, up the next woods. Up, right there. That's Foster's Branch Bridge.
Okay, because a big concern for the residents in our area is 600. That road it barely handles the residents that live there. And if roads were going to be used to pull into this facility, if 600 was going to be used as an access or a back way into it, something of that nature, that road is in no way, shape, or form prepared for anything like that.
Their cuts off 38.
Okay. That's all.
Yeah, there's, by chance there was any traffic over there, that employee would be fired immediately.
I had a quick question just to kind of piggyback off what she was talking about from the environmental standpoint. You mentioned the sampling of like the stormwater. Is that just done at retention pond that is on property, or is it with it being agricultural soil? I feel like it's going to drain very well. So I worry about I know there's no fluids left in the vehicles, but potential, what is not deemed hazardous now, 20 years ago could have been, or in 20 years could be. So what types of preventative measures do you guys use in, say, that stone yard lot, where if it's gravel, it could be permeable, could eventually leach out? What type of preventative methods do you guys use for that?
Phase one and everything else done.
Yeah, so this is literally like operationally, yeah.
Operationally, once again, there's really nothing to create when it goes out there. But secondly, you have to realize that a Walmart parking lot, a Tractor Supply parking lot, it will create 10 times, 20 to 100% more than what our yard will produce, because there's nothing there to produce it. That is what's so exciting about what we do. We're really, when I hear people talk about what's your impact on the environment, it's back up. We actually are one of the best protection of the environment, because you're not having to reproduce iron and ore and everything else that has to happen. So back to your point, there's just really no way of having an EPA in the yard.
And specifically though, if for instance, so LKQ is going to own this facility. Our firm actually owns a lot of them as well. Whether they own it or we own it, if we have a loan, for instance, on one of these facilities, our lender will actually, we'll get a phase one done in the yard every 2 or 3 years. Just, again, phase one isn't a whole lot other than visual inspections, but absolutely not a problem.
They do monitoring, is it monthly, right? They'll take samples out of the ponds. Yes.
I'm just thinking of permeability with the land, but if there's not going to be anything and everything stored inside, that definitely helps.
Along those lines, sorry to interrupt. Along those lines too, without getting again too much into the minutia details, when they dismantle those vehicles inside, there is a process whereby those fluids, I'll let these guys talk about the details, but it's basically, it's a 3-step process of going through sand and oil separators to where when you get done, everything is ready to go.
Towards the treatment facility.
Exactly.
Mr. Barrett.
Gary Grammer, 628 Foster Branch Drive. So I'm in the area to the west, next neighborhood up. Anyway, 113 acres, 50 jobs. Is that the best use of light industrial for Pendleton? It might be the best use of that land for them, as we've already been told, because our plan isn't any good anymore. But is that the best plan for Pendleton, to give up 113 acres and get 50 jobs at most? I don't like that part of it. If we're going to give up that much acreage, then I would, for light industry, I think it would bring us more jobs, which, okay, they're going to say it's going to bring more traffic. I understand that. But I certainly see this as a win for LKQ. I don't see it's a win for Pendleton. And again, Gary Grammer, not starting to fight.
No,
but I'm offended. I'm offended that we put in so much work on these plans, and someone from out of town comes in and says that's not the best use of your property. I don't know, I'm gonna go home there every night. So I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what's best for the company, or for the community. I don't know, you live in the area, or don't know if you'll ever be back. But I think our planning and the time that Hannah and her group has put in is pretty darn good. And again, I'm just a tad offended at being told it's not the best use. That's all.
Well, thank you,
Gary,
Gary.
I definitely don't want to fight you because that would be over pretty quick, I'm sure. And no one was trying to be critical of the plan. We know time and effort was put in it. But I'm a straight shooter, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's not highest and best use for high-end residential. I mean, it's not. If I on my own nickel went and got a land planner to come and look at that site, it wouldn't be that. But
Here, okay? I'm hearing you go and then you go and everybody has their opinion. So let me jump in.
Could you come to the podium, Mr. Gaines, please?
Jason Gaines.
Could you come to the podium, please?
I fully get what you say. So I've been here for several decades, but we've owned it, family farm. And so I am familiar with all the town planners currently before when it was made and how it was made up. But the issue at hand is I think we deserve a Fortune 300 company in our town. I think it benefits us. I think everybody's going to benefit. I think it's going to benefit other businesses. I have friends who have businesses in this town and they're begging for new people to move in because my buddy owns a restaurant down there. I need younger people. I need people to stay. I need, I need my clientele's dying off. So I hear that from him. And then I'm very concerned with what goes on the property because I have been part of this. I've been back with Doug McGee and I go back with the old planners and everything else. I'm very concerned, but I feel we deserve a Fortune 300 company. And unfortunately, when the plan was put in a lot of time, and again, I don't think he's trying to be mean about it, but a lot of time was because I was there with them when they were doing it. Unfortunately, it was kind of pre-COVID. Okay, now we're in this COVID or recession or on recession, and my buddies are house builders. And I'm like, what's your thoughts? Because it came up several times before. Well, nothing's getting really built in large scale, but it's going to come back. But I asked them, would you build on it? I don't get calls on the property to build houses. And it's supposed to be high-end houses. And that's not to say, I get it. It's a nice big piece of property. It's an entrance way in there. But the thought of somebody calling me and saying, hey, we'd love to put your property in, build houses, forget about executive houses, just regular houses. I'm not getting the call. And I feel that this is an opportunity that is bringing us to this to get us, forget about the other towns around us. I'd like to have a Fortune 300 company in our town because I think it's going to benefit everybody's property around us and hopefully show them that we're open for business and more people want to come in our town to do business. Because since the plan's put into place 2 years ago, which we spent a lot of money on, a lot of time in, I don't know how many new projects have come into town. But we have something in place, but I don't really see that really big nameplate that kind of why would they, as Fortune 300 company, want to do business in Pendleton? It's a perfect property. I was really happy about that, and they are professional. And the girls, the guys, the back in there have worked really, really hard on this. And so I get the traffic flow was the biggest thing to me. Because when I came here before, it was horrible presentation. I don't know if you were here last before. And they're talking about 1 million square foot underneath the building. I'm like, oh, wow. Then I'm looking at these other warehouses in these other towns, and then it's not even owner occupied. They're building something. We're going to know exactly what we're going to get. We're going to know exactly what it's going to look like. We know what the landscaping is going to look like. And the traffic flow, which, like I said, you can say, is going to be minute compared to whatever else goes in there. And I think that's a concern with the other houses and Foster's, and there are those gorgeous houses there. And the road that's supposed to come down, everybody in Anderson says nobody wants to pay for it or anything else like that. But in today's world, I just don't know how many more opportunities we're going to see from this property with a grade A company like this. I just don't. I think we deserve it, but I respect the plans that were put there in place. To be honest, rather if you think it should or you think it shouldn't, the reality is I'm not getting calls to build houses. And I think you mentioned in our last meeting, we're not getting calls. The town's not getting calls either as far as building houses as much as we would like it. Otherwise, it's going to stay farmland. And I think it's going to be, it'd be a tremendous loss for me personally, but I think it's a bigger loss for the town. I think it'd be nice to have a Fortune 300 company nameplate out there so people go, who are they? And say, well, they're a big company. Well, then it helps, it kind of establishes ourselves. We're a little bit bigger town than people think. That's my, sorry to go off on a tangent. That was my.
That's fine, Mr. Gaines. We appreciate it. But you didn't catch Mr. Gaines as the landowner. Take Willie and Ed to be next.
Wait, first of all, I'm kind of unique here tonight because I've been a customer of these people for years. My body shops, my dealerships, they provide a service. I still have contacts daily with body shops. They provide a service. They have good equipment. They come on time. People are good. They really try. They provide a service that's getting hard to find. Let's say, Tim, you bang a fender up on your truck. Okay, we can go to the body shop and get you one made in Japan, and you set it there and it's like we'll double over. They have original equipment that can take off an original truck. And body shops are getting to the point where they're hurting for that. Insurance companies, they just want to buy the cheapest fender out there, so you got to argue with them to get original equipment.
Right.
Yeah. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Ed?
Good evening. My name is Edward Valenti. I'm a Decker lawyer in Maynard. I'm here tonight with my co-counsel, John Higgins. We represent the landowner immediately to the west of the property with the chunk of trees there. We were disappointed to not have any discussion or contact of anything going on here before we came here tonight. I would second the statements made tonight. There's been a tremendous effort put into the plan, the master plan that has gone on. I have been representing my client here before you for several years now. I've witnessed the care that you have put into that plan. My clients and I, we might not always see eye to eye on the minutiae of the plan, but the care that has been put into that plan has been very evident from the beginning. In looking at this particular development, this will change the entire character of this quadrant of the map. This is not suitable to have, and they've said as much, this is not suitable to have any residential use near this property. It is a well-done reclamation center, but I hate to use the term junkyard. I don't mean in a derogatory sense, but it is a junkyard that takes junk and recycles it. I would question to one thing, you said nothing is stored above 4 feet. My old Jeep Liberty is higher than 4 feet. Even if you take wheels off it, it's going to be more than 4 feet tall stored in the lot.
The rack would be removed then.
So there is that. We are, to Mr. Gaines' point, our property has been actively solicited many times to put residential use on it. We are currently, we've had a meeting here with members of this body and the town discussing continued residential use on our lot adjacent to this property. So we would have to say that the character of this proposed use does not fit with the current master plan. This use will change the entire character of this development area, and it will make it antithetical to residential use. The town has publicly stated on numerous occasions, members of this body have stated on numerous occasions, that it is their desire for residential use for this zone. with all that in mind, we would oppose this development and we would ask that this body not approve this development as it's not in keeping with the carefully considered master plans and does not support the future long-term goals that have been stated over the past 2 years for the town. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ed. Okay. Hearing several comments, I find there's 2 valid points here, one on each side. First and foremost, LKQ, I think you guys did a wonderful job in your presentation. You've got an attractive building, attractive site. I feel you guys do everything you can to make it upscale to first class. Secondly, the weight is falling on our shoulders to decide what we want there. If we want to change our plan from the residential, and I don't disagree with you or agree with you, that is a plan, and plans change. So we've got to do our homework to decide if we're going to stick to our guns residentially or move it to light industrial or whatever we want there going forward. So with that said, and all the comments, I'm going to make the recommendation tonight that we continue this till the February meeting. I will ask you folks, if you could, to come back with some site elevations from the interstate with your berm and your fence in relation to that height. Maybe you can impose a car on the other side of the fence, try to get a really good sense of where that car is actually going to be, particularly where the car would be down close to the fence versus where the car would be up where it says Stone Yard, because that's going to change inside. I don't expect you to go out on interstate, take elevation shots, do a full survey, but we can get some ideas on heights there as well. The second thing was, if you can get some other pictures, real pictures of your other facilities, that it might help, how they're screened and what's around those facilities. Are there other businesses? Are they out in the middle of the desert, cornfields, or where they're at? Could help your case. Our job is going to have to be what the board of the town really wants to see happen with that corridor going forward. We hate to lose opportunities, but some of the board members have made some valid points that we've got one shot at it. So whatever goes there is probably going to stay there. And could be detrimental or could be attractive to that whole quadrant out there. So with that said, okay.
So I guess my thought was the Keystone Master, that Keystone District starts south of 38. So if there's any way you could slide the building down and reserve some outlots for future commercial development, because that's what the Keystone corridor is for. That reduces your,
Sure.
I assume you have 70 acres of stone because that's what's left over. If that's a possibility. And then the only other thing is our comprehensive plan has that as planned business anyway, and not residential. So consider.
Rough idea, just a rough number of how many acres you think would be called commercial reserve out.
I mean, just a typical, 2 acre deep outlot or something, similar to what we have on the other side where you've got
the south building elevation north.
Well, I was thinking like from, like behind Van Welker, so you have
Kind of like flow it just along front.
just parallel with 38, so that you could have, it would kind of provide some screening and maybe potentially have some future commercial up there.
So basically, what we call a commercial reserve, push the building back to save just whatever
Just
the
a
depth
thought.
is. Yeah. And then share a drive or have a drive that would be next to the farm dealer, the equipment dealer right there to access the building.
Yeah.
And then I still think too, how the rest of that quadrant is going to be able to be used. I mean, we might all agree that high executive residential isn't right, but we still have to somehow flow between the existing homes over Foster's Branch Ridge and this property. There's a gap in there that has to flow somehow. Or does that just become totally unsaleable property?
mean,
It's next to a big parking lot, so it's, there's worse uses, I would say.
I mean,
Those questions and decisions we're gonna have to answer.
Yeah.
Right there, so.
I would throw to you all though, that if you wanted to consider apartments or mobile homes, possibly tract homes type, and you wanted to do that, then I would say, hold off. And if that's what you want, then I'd say that's viable. If you really didn't want anything out there, make it a park. But, park probably doesn't pay much in taxes. I don't know. That's,
Scott? you
On
just-
your elevation, I would ask for the elevations from the outside radius.
Northbound lane.
And also from the upper back. That's where your highest elevation.
Okay,
so the plan is to get you this elevation look with site references before a February meeting.
you can bring it to the February meeting, that's fine. If you need more time, we can put it on the March meeting, but it's good enough.
We don't need more.
Okay, I didn't figure you would. So council, we have motion second vote.
To continue this hearing until the February 1st plan commission.
I'll make a motion to continue this hearing to the February 1st planning commission meeting based on the comments and questions we've had tonight. Have a second. Hearing no second, do you want to vote? Cheryl, this is-
Cheryl seconded.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a second. All those in favor of continuing the motion to the February 1st meeting, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Any questions before we move on?
I would add it would be helpful for that elevation from the west. And the residential area.
You know that, Hannah? You know that too. Okay, I'd like to take a 10-minute recess now, if you please. We'll continue the meeting after 10 minutes.
I don't know if you, this is all planned business, not. It's the comp plan. So that
Show
makes.
me the color of red is planned business.
No, that's PUD, so that's like mixed residential. Commercial. This is planned business. Plan.
Okay.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yep, thank you.
All right.
guys.
Be in touch.
Good question, no?
We've had other petitions before. I think our homework needs to be, what do we want there? Do we want to keep it residential? All residential, some light industrial? Or what?
So I know last year, but yes, last year. I had kind of approached you about this because I wasn't really getting any information for that particular use there. And maybe looking at it again, I'm happy to bring kind of a better presentation because immediately it just kind of stuck out to me. I was like, this seems a little odd. So coming back with kind of all that market information or market study that was done, maybe some, if there's minutes from any of the special meetings, again, I wasn't here when that plan was created. So I don't know really what steps were taken to formulate that quadrant. But I do think, I agree. I think it's something that we definitely need to review, and if not residential or part of the Keystone or what have you, we need to figure out what.
So I have a question. So let's say we go to light residential there. So when a company comes in, they want light use, they want to propose a use for light residential.
Light
So,
industrial. Do you mean
I mean, light
light
industrial,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, yeah.
So I've been on this board for a while, so sometimes when they meet all of those criteria, then it's really tough for us to say no, right? So I personally like it to sit right at residential until we get a feeling that we have the right group coming in. What I don't want to have happen is, and sometimes I feel that way, is that there's pressure sometimes from the planning team and also from people that hear about things before we come. I'd really like to hear things pure and clean when I get here once a month. So
Big question I had tonight was, why there with LKQ? I mean, it looked like they had a beautiful program, beautiful building. They got their act together. Looks clean, whatever else, but to me, there's a lot cheaper ground 4 exits up for what they want to build. They could build that in the middle of the cornfield and function just fine. It is not a walk-in business. Everybody that knows them is a Chevrolet dealership or an auto body dealership. They get online, order a part, and ship it to them. So they really be on the move. They don't care. I don't know why. I think personally, I think they're in the real estate business. They put a building there. They get it up and pay for with the parts. For 4 or 5 years, they sell it, then it comes around and make money, move on to the next one.
They leave a big footprint.
That would be interesting to look at those other smaller facilities that they talked about.
Oh, I have them up. They're not what.
They're no dummies.
Yeah.
So they got a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of money for one reason. They know what to do. They know what they're doing with it.
Plainfield.
Plainfield, Avon.
They have no land with them though. Those facilities. The one in Plainfield's a big building.
Well,
It was interesting too, that all of them only employed 13, 15, 18 people,
right.
and ours is gonna be 80.
And only a couple really
That was gonna be my
high-end
question too.
jobs, and everything else falls lower threshold here.
So I guess nonetheless, back to our Keystone plan.
Yeah, so we would rather have 300 houses on 100 acres. I mean, if we like to look at houses, you could do a Wild West town along the perimeter and make it look like
Well,
houses.
but I
I
get
agree
back,
with Mr. Gaines. I don't think there'll ever be a house built.
yeah.
Not in that
Well-
hole, not next to the interstate, not next to the tractor dealership. Not next
But
to the
I
fishing
also think,
ponds.
I think the reason we identified it as this future Keystone was because we don't know what the right thing is. And we need to concentrate on the other side of the interstate, get that developed appropriately. And then see, I mean,
So
what's
we
gonna
change it-
happen
we
in 10 or
change it from-
15 or 20 years?
We change it from residential to future
Well,
development.
I kind of agree with Cheryl. If we don't change it, then at least that gives us the ability to control it and not feel pressured into.
The only thing that scares me is another LKQ company comes along that's really attractive. And they jump over because they see it's residential. And we never got a look see.
Also, I mean, as we're all well aware, those are just plans. So
Yeah.
they're-
And we realize they're fluid.
Yeah.
But I feel like consideration for a vision needs to occur. It was all about how great it is, but great. And Mr. Brammer said everything I wanted to say. He was on the money with it. But I do feel, are we on or off the record? Can I get clarification?
We're on.
So
I have to be taken off.
We could, as long as we're convening the forum president, it's on the record.
I'm just
Okay.
used to asking.
Yeah.
I need to know that. But I do feel like we somewhat fail property owners that would like to sell. They have this big land, that's what it's all about. But, the time, the money to do this, and I know it's a fraction of their overall budgets. But for us not to have a little more narrowed down vision, and that's what we need to dig deep. And we might not know that perfect mix, but I do feel like we need to dig a little harder. Whether we're ready for a mass marketing plan yet or down the road, then that can help attract what we as an, not a board, but we as a community
Yeah.
have told us we want here. And I do feel like, and if it's throwing some dollars at it for, you know, some small, something that helps then the right people to be attracted with the right project.
Because you're saying maybe we're not the ones that need to be making that.
Well, and we need to
Decision.
unify the interchange plan with the comp plan, because the comp plan says business goes there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it has PUD on it. We don't even have that anymore.
Yeah.
So we
that-
need
yeah.
to
That comp
update
plan
some
is getting
things.
updated.
So the question is,
Yeah.
right now, we want to leave it residential. Is that the question?
I
Is
think
that the answer?
right
The
now,
use?
until we-
Until we have.
Leave it,
as like a
leave it residential?
placeholder type of
Placeholder, yeah.
Well, the other thing is,
Yeah.
we have to have a vision for what's going on both the north and the south side of 38.
Exactly.
We
At
don't
the
know.
gateway,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
at the gateway to the Keystone District, you know, if we want additional office park development on the northwest quadrant of that to mirror what's already there, 3 and 4 story, if we are looking for some, you know,
Shopping, retail.
retail shopping similar to a Hamilton Town Center. I mean, you're not gonna put in higher end retail along that corridor and restaurants with a salvage yard operation in the middle. The whole pedestrian flow, the pedestrian traffic, the bike traffic, the linking of the west side of the interstate to the east side of the interstate. That's all got to be taken into consideration, as well as the impact on the properties adjacent to it.
And that footbridge, it's there to connect both sides of our town. We want that use and how those trails intertwine. And I know we have a map that is that and how that is integrated with our vision. Because even if it's a live, eat, here, play, whatever that.
Yeah,
is.
live, work, play.
Yeah.
Keystone.
Or even if it is light industrial, are there still gonna be some bike paths and how that all flows? I do feel like, most of us are on the same page with, we need to take time to brainstorm that.
To do it right.
Okay.
That's our one
With all that
shot.
said, then let's leave it residential for now. Okay,
Yep.
we'll move forward tonight. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, item C is rezone Bagley property back to Ag 2 original zoning.
Yeah, so.
This was on last month and I decided to put it on this month because we only had 4 people, I think, here last month.
I didn't know we had a meeting last
November.
month.
November.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
thanks.
November. Yeah. So this was something where we went through the rezone process. If you remember Roush Coleman Homes on the Bagley property, they had a conservation subdivision with an SF4 zoning. And they pulled out of that agreement with property owners after that rezone was issued. So it is technically SF4 right now. The property does have all of the conditions that came with that rezone to, if someone were to come in tomorrow and want to develop it and go through primary platting, they would have to meet all of those standards. However, I wanted to just approach the board about, you know, if we would want to petition to take that back to Ag 2, which is what it was before.
Where are we talking exactly?
67.
67
between the
above.
ball
North of
diamonds
Huntsville there.
and
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by the ball
the
fields.
bowling
and part of
area.
it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So Jeff, I don't know if that would be something where they would have to formally decide to have the town rezone it, or I would just present it as a petitioner.
You could make a petition,
Okay,
from this body.
and then the town council. So
Has
it
the
would
property
have to-
owner requested this?
but-
No,
They would get notice of it.
Of
They'd like
course,
to come in
yeah.
and jump up and down. if they didn't like it.
I made light of it with Hannah early on because I think it would be more attractive if somebody come to town and seen it zoned as ag. That they could build light industrial or retail or whatever versus it being zoned residential and trying to get it something else.
Well, and
Most
kind of getting
everything-
back to your comment.
Well, most
Yes.
everything is zoned ag anyway.
Yeah. And then we know it's gonna have to come back to us.
Right.
Right.
Because otherwise somebody might come
Right.
in and meet all the criteria and
Yeah,
then
if they
we
want
don't
to.
have any
I think
We
it
don't have
would
any. I
greatly
think it would be
behoove us to say that.
safe. I think it would be safer.
So I would basically act as the petitioner. The town would do the noticing, and it would be just like any other rezone.
Yeah.
You want to put that on from February?
I'd recommend a formal vote off for directing for planning director to make that petition on behalf of the town.
Right.
I'll make the motion then to ask Hannah, if you would please, to petition the board to rezone Bagley property back to Ag 2 for the February meeting. I'll send out the
So no
proper
issue. that-
notices to the surrounding other homeowners,
Correct.
adjacent properties.
Yeah.
Is there time?
Huh?
Is there time?
I was gonna say, I'm not sure if I have enough time now. If
That's
not, I
fine. We
can
can
get
do
it
it
on
March.
March.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Early as possible.
as early as.
Early as possible.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Second, all those in favor of rezoning the Bagley property back to Ag 2 via the town, please say aye. Those opposed? Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Oh, we do? Okay.
Can I just
All right.
ask a question? It's not an issue that you say discussion only on the agenda. We're okay.
But all you're doing is directing her to take action.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I asked that too. Yes. thank
Just want
you.
to make sure it's
Kenai.
kosher.
Kenai.
Mhm.
Okay, PC rule updates. Anna?
So I went through our planning commission rules, and Jeff and I worked together to kind of just update some things. It was referencing our old codes that we no longer have. We have the UDO now. It also now clarifies, because of the UDO, the new roles of the planning commission, which no longer includes site plan development approval or secondary plat approval. And then also I think I updated this a while ago, but to just re-clarify it, that we now allow not only certified mail as a form of noticing, but certificate of mailing as well. So,
we got 11 pages of stuff we're supposed to be doing.
yeah. All you, secretary.
My one comment is I always struggle with not getting the red line version as well as the cleaned version. I
Oh,
feel
you
like
mean like
we
the
should
previous
always-
version?
Yes, I feel like we should always have, especially if this was approved prior, we should always have a red line version and then the clean version, so we can compare if there's one little word that really can change the context of that sentence. I want,
Sure.
we should know that.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot easier.
Yeah.
Trying to line them up about that.
Right. I mean, I do have a clean version of your old rules, but nothing that has my edit marks on it.
Yeah.
And then from a red line version, that indicates the specific changes made in line, just not the sidebar, that there was a modification in this area. So you want to see the detail.
Strikes,
It's all the strike throughs.
Correct.
Yes.
Make sure we're on the same page.
Especially when you're looking at 11 pages.
And really, if there's something denoted off to the side, printing it with that, like why we made this, from a historical standpoint, we can always go back and trace, like, I think we did this, but no, we know and know why. I just,
Yeah, that's great.
I'd like to take it to that far.
Yeah. I don't know if I have any red line versions,
I,
but
I'm not, I'm just saying
No,
like future.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, if you wanted to hold off on those, I could probably find one on my desktop. The old rules are not insufficient. They work. They just reference some other things. So
Yeah, and it really is not necessarily this, just kind of moving forward. That's kind of
yeah,
where
that makes
what
total sense.
my, I think, expectation would be to make it just very professional, that we're not making any wrong decision. Yeah,
11 pages like.
and it's not anything.
That UDO is 250.
Yeah. Oh, we know.
Don't bring the UDO up.
No,
Yeah.
we know.
I have
Appreciate
no
it.
amendments this month, I'll have you know. Yep, that's all. right.
Council?
Nothing, sir.
Denise? You on
So do
board?
they need to vote to update this, or are we gonna wait?
I think that.
We wanna wait till February?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Good? All right, thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned. Now you're off break.
Well, you know, I've just gotten used to that because
Just gotta stop the Zoom.
put them out sometimes.
Yeah, that's good.